Hello again. Here we are in week 3, the third video for chapters 15 through 21. So just kind of high level going through all of the chapters. It shouldn't be as long as some of mine have been. So chapter 15, pregnancy and preparing for birth. I really enjoyed kind of just, again, all the resources they give you. They definitely include personal examples, it was interesting to read, just kind of what goes through an expecting mother's mind and kind of how to utilize the resources and prepare for the child that you're about to bring into the world. So I do have the textbook right here, and so there are just some different cases and things like that about where women just talk about how carrying like a life inside of you for 9 months. I also thought it was really incredible how they talk about like how to go about picking who your doctor is going to be, the care you're going to receive, and just everything like that. For kind of 16 and 17, I'm going to combine them, so the physical labor and birth, along with like the early months of parenting. So for the labor and birth, where you're going to give birth. Are you going to do a home birth? Are you going to do a water birth? Are you going to go into a hospital? Hopefully you're lucky enough to have the choice and it's not going to be an emergency C-section or something that just happened that's not like common or ideal. I also thought it was interesting about how they talked about, there was like a chart in the book about the different types of drugs and what that actually means, what it makes you feel, the different routes you can take. Are you going to go all natural? Are you going to get some sort of medication to help ease the pain? And just kind of a little bit more information behind that. I did really like how the book took out the political side of it and like the judgment opinions. More so it included the educational aspect, so it's not going to be a you shouldn't have an all-natural birth because it's going to hurt, versus it looks at it as going, if this is what you decide to do, here's how to go about it, per se. With the early months of parenting, that chapter was an interesting one to read. I mean, I think this whole like week 3 book was definitely interesting because obviously I'm not a mother. So to me, I thought that was just interesting about, how once the 9 months are over, how do you physically recover, something the book talked about, and like what childbirth does to a woman's body and how you're going to get back to your natural self and how you're going to have different physical changes, hormonal changes, you're going to be tired, how it's going to be easy or hard to sleep. And then the last thing I'll talk about in this chapter was the whole meeting your child and getting that instant bond and just working with whoever your spouse is, or if you are alone, then just working hard to ensure that you provide the best you can. For miscarriages, stillbirth, and other losses, wasn't a fan of this chapter. I don't think anyone is, but it can happen. So I think one thing that was interesting in here is it kind of talks about like if you do find out news like this, what to do about it. Do you have the fetus removed? Do you carry to term? And just overall the like health concerns of the mother, because yes, it is sad if you do lose a baby, but the doctors are going to want to ensure that the mother is safe. If you can't carry to term, they're going to advise you not to. Just like if you were to go into a riskful childbirth, you could risk losing the mother and the baby. So just different things like that. It talked about how to cope with the loss. Do you need to talk to a therapist? Do you have a great support system? And then it went into the next chapter of like the infertility, assisted reproductive technologies. And so this one was kind of interesting because it talked about why women may experience infertility, the reason behind it, and why women just have different bodies. And the one thing I really liked about it is it talked about the emotional side, so not only the scientific side, but also like how a woman deals with not being able to carry her own child, or not be able to get pregnant with ease, or having to go through all the different treatments, which are very costly. And I think this chapter kind of hit a little deeper as I've shared in my paper the story about my sister, and how she's having both her breasts removed July 10th, and with that she had to harvest eggs, create more, freeze them, and just take that side of it. So I think learning about women that can't get pregnant or have to maximize fertility was definitely an interesting thing to read about, and also just making sure you're seeking out the right care and you're getting the right doctors and you're getting the most of your healthcare benefits and just utilizing every resource you have in front of you. And then as for premenopause and menopause and then our later years, that was new to me. Obviously, being 20, I haven't gone through that. My sisters are very young, and it's not a conversation I discuss with my mom, but learning just all the different symptoms, and I think it kind of broke it down because you hear everyone say like, oh, hot flash, things like that, but actually getting to hear like the correct definitions of it, how to expect it, what to do. Again, utilizing your resources, making sure that you have anything and everything you could possibly need, as well as it kind of did a chart of like the years of like what to expect at what age could you get symptoms, and just different things like that. Again, it talked about different like symptoms, and yeah, so I think that that's pretty much it. Like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to read this book. I think it is well educating. I think it's just kind of an eye-opener because I don't want to say I'm not in tune to my body, but just the things I've learned from this course have been really great. So thank you for letting us take this course.